There are many Spider-Women in the world, so what if they needed to work together in a multiversal mission? Sounds like fun. Welcome to the Complete Story Series, where I take trade paperbacks and single issues and break them down into digestible bites to help you understand until I get stuck in the multiversal situation where I have to go to different worlds. That's where I read them dramatically back to you. All alterations to the panels, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Earth 65. It's another day for Gwen Stacy as she swings through stopping a few robbers from breaking into a diamond store. What's different though is that there's someone watching her. The man reports back stating that he'll keep an eye on her, but she tends to disappear. A little while later, in a quick change, Gwen sighs to herself as she hits a button on her watch, and then a big purple vortex begins to swirl in front of her. After passing through and allowing the vortex to close, she appears in Earth 616. She appears in the current Marvel Prime universe. As she steps out, she's trying to remember the line to a song, and Cindy Moon is there to greet her by finishing the line. Gwen asks if she'll be joining them for brunch, and she tells her yes. But after an awkward amount of silence, Gwen says, "You wanna?" And Cindy finishes it with, "Yeah, let's." The two leave for Jessica Drew's apartment, and when they get there, the place is a complete wreck because Jessica's had her baby. Cindy tells Jessica that they can stay in, but Jessica stops her. "No, I need adult time." And just then the sitter arrives ringing the doorbell. Roger says that he can explain why he's late, but Jessica tells him she doesn't care. He's here and she loves him for it. The three girls all head out to find a place to eat, and Gwen happens to know the perfect place. It's back on Earth 65. That place is Clown Town, the greatest place on Earth, or any Earth for that matter. So Gwen asks Jessica how the whole being a mom thing is, and Jessica says honestly it's amazing when it's totally not exhausting and overwhelming. Gwen tells her, "Wow, don't sell me so hard on being a mommy." And then Cindy asks if anybody else wants to check out the ball pit. When everyone tells her no, Cindy jumps into the ball pit alone, and Gwen mentions that Cindy's not all there, is she? But Jessica tells her that Cindy was locked in a bunker for 10 years. And when she gets out, she finds out that her family has gone missing. And that's when Jessica asks, "How is she?" Gwen stays silent, and then she says her friend Harry, he kind of turned himself into the Green Goblin. Before long, Cindy joins the group again, asking if there's a Cindy on Earth 65. Because if there is, but Jessica stops her, telling her, "That's not gonna happen. We came here for brunch and that's it." But since she still has some time, is there any non-us stuff in this world? The three of them leave and they decide to go to Starbucks to get some coffee before Cindy and Jessica have to go back to Marvel Prime. And just before Gwen Stacy can leave, someone's watching still. They report back that they found Gwen and that there are two other enhanced. And in response, whoever's in the other line of his call tells them they're sending in Project Green. As they're leaving, Jessica tells Gwen that Earth 65 was a cool call, coming here to hang out. And that's when the three of them hear a loud crash outside. Everyone heads over to a nearby rooftop to change, and Cindy asks if there's a giant robot because she's totally dying to punch one. Jessica says that it's a Super Adaptoid. They're a bit tricky, so they need to, but Cindy jumps off the ledge, ready to go punch a giant robot. Jessica and Gwen follow after her, and Jessica shouts, "Don't attack! The Adaptoid will adapt to your powers." But Cindy happens to already be in the middle of shooting a web as the Adaptoid turns and covers her in web. Once Jessica frees her, she tells everyone that they need to attack at the same time, and above them, the man continues to watch. The man, however, that's watching is also in the building where everyone changed, and he decides to go through Gwen's bag and then leaves. Soon the three girls attack once again, and with Cindy and Gwen holding it down with a web, Jessica jumps in, giving it a final blast. Afterwards, they look down as the cops begin to show up, and Gwen says that they should go. She's kinda wanted in this universe. But when Gwen goes back to her bag to get her dimensional travel watch, she notices it's gone. Elsewhere, the man from before delivers the watch to his boss, and his boss asks him, "How does it work?" The man tells her to just flip the switch and ta-da! Boss, meet Earth Prime. Earth Prime, meet Cindy Moon of Earth 65. Later that night on Earth 65, Gwen and Cindy bicker about how Gwen could have lost the teleporter. And as they go on, Gwen sees Jessica getting up to leave. She tells them that they have a choice. They can either stay here bickering or they can work as a team and get this done. Because if not, she's gonna find some real help or punch something so that she doesn't have to cave their heads in. Jessica leaps off the building and Gwen tells her that this is her world. They should follow her. With no real forms of communication, Jessica suggests that they all get some cell phones to keep in contact while they're stranded on Gwen Stacy's world. But as Jessica was in the process of commandeering some cell phones, everyone begins to hear someone else yell, "Nobody move! The Bodega Bandit is back in business!" Jessica asks, "What the fuck?" and then zaps the man and drags him out of the store. As they leave, Cindy tells the store clerk that she knows things are a bit different, but do they happen to have a phone book she needs to look up an address? A little while later, while Cindy is changing out of her costume, Gwen says to Jessica that she can't believe that Cindy ditched them and she's not picking up her phone, and Jessica says she won't until she talks to them. But again, the two of them are being watched, and Gwen says that it's fine. Her spider sense is warning them of some peeping toms. As they head down to the Gwen's apartment, Jessica explains that Cindy's parents disappeared while she was exiled to that bunker. But for now, they're gonna have to deal with one thing at a time. Gwen opens up the door to her apartment, and then the music begins to blare out, and Jessica asks what the hell was that. One of the girls from inside says, "That, sister, is rockin' effing roll." Once inside, Jessica makes herself comfy on the couch inside of the mess, asking Gwen if this is really how she lives. And Gwen tells her, "Yeah, I guess." Seeing Gwen and her friends, Jessica says that there's a slight change in plans. She may not have really had a childhood, but she doesn't want to take Gwen away from the one that she has. So go to band practice. She'll find someone who can help them get back home. The next day, Jessica leaves to find the only person that can help, the Reed Richards of Earth 65. Jessica finds him and tells him that it's funny to see a kid skipping school to study. And he asks her if he's supposed to know her. And she says that she doesn't have the time or the energy to be Sarah Connor, but just know that she's a superhero from a different world. And Reed tells her, "Sure, I'll help you." She begins to say that she didn't even finish her sentence, but then she stops, stating, "He's Reed Richards. He was probably meeting dimensional hoppers before he could even tie his shoes." But before they can even leave, more men with spider masks begin to appear, and as Jessica jumps into action, one of the men shoots her with a taser. She begins to get back up, and a web flies through, grabbing one of the men, tossing him to the side. And Jessica asks, how did she find her? And Gwen says she may have followed her. More men begin showing up, and the two of them begin fighting them off, but Reed mentions that she can shoot electricity, so Gwen grabs Reed and jumps to the higher level of the monkey bars, and Jessica grabs down onto the level that she's on and shocks the floor, electrocuting all of the men climbing up after her. Once all of the men are knocked out, Jessica tells Gwen to get back, but Gwen tells her to stop saying that. Like it or not, they're spider women, and that makes them family. As the night begins to arrive, Gwen takes Jessica and Reed to her father George Stacy's home to lay low. But as Gwen helps Reed, Jessica and George head over to the porch for a drink, and that's when Jessica's phone rings. Cindy's finally reporting in, stating that she's fine, but she called to warn her. It's not her that she should be worried about. So while Jessica and Gwen have found Reed and they're making their own plans to get back home, Cindy, on the other hand, ran off, and she felt that she needed to find her parents in this world, and after a short while, she did. As she decided to talk to them, she found out that the Cindy of this world abandoned her family 3 years ago. Cindy tells them that she's sorry and she leaves, but as she does, her brother Albert follows her, telling her that he wanted to give her an invitation to his graduation party. She looks at the address, wondering how this world version of her could be such a jerk, and then she heads off to where the letter was supposed to go, the supposed apartment of Cindy Moon of Earth 65. She finds herself standing in front of a giant high-rise tower, but the strange part was that the butler in front welcomed her and says that he will get her to her private elevator. Cindy thinks so the jerk version of her is wildly successful at who knows what, but it won't stop her from trashing the place. She walks around the fancy apartment looking at everything, wondering how it is in this world that she could cut her own family out of her life. Then she looks at herself in a mirror thinking, well, she did ditch Gwen and Jessica. And then the mirror changes, stating retinal scan complete. Suddenly, the sinks fly apart, and then a metal door begins to open up before her. Cindy thinks that there are only two types of people who have hidden elevators: pop stars and supervillains. And then she enters the elevator thinking, please be a pop star. She gets down to the ground floor, and judging by all of the monitors, she's decided that the Cindy Moon of Earth 65 is not a pop star, but she's an agent of S.I.L.K. She then hears a voice asking if she's back so soon. By the way, interesting new uniform. And as she can see, Project Jackhammer was a success. Oil has been spilled and stock has plummeted just as she projected. Cindy tells him, excellent. And then the man asks if there's been any word from Agent Drew. He would really prefer to not be in the dark regarding the interdimensional operations. Cindy begins to push the man away, telling him that she doesn't care what he prefers and if he'll excuse her. After locking herself away in her office, Cindy begins to look through the computer to try and figure out where Agent Drew is, and she finds where he lives, but not where he is. And then she mistakenly shuts down the entire system. However, there's one thing that she does find, and that's a USB drive labeled Spider Women. Back at George Stacy's home, Cindy calls Jessica to tell her what she's found, and she gives Jessica the address of this world's her, Agent Drew. Jessica tells her to try and get out of that secret enemy base quietly, and she's going to send Gwen Stacy over to help out. Gwen asks what is it she's going to do, and Jessica tells her, beat herself stupid. Back at Cindy's tower, the guards spot her and call her out for being the imposter, and they tell her to stop. Cindy begins to fight against the guards, but the man from before appears, stating that he doesn't know who she really is. But then Cindy tells him that she didn't catch his name, or that squid friend of his either. And the man tells her it's not a squid, she's an octopus. Elsewhere, in a short cab ride later, Jessica follows up on the address of Agent Drew. Normally, you wouldn't want to seek out your own doppelganger, but after Cindy found out that this world's Cindy Moon runs an evil clandestine organization called S.I.L.K, and one of her main operatives in this world was herself, Jessica decided to seek out Agent Drew. She rings the doorbell and notices a woman answering the door, wondering if this is her, and then she realizes, no, stupid multiverse. The woman asks if she's looking for Jessie Drew, and Jessica tells her yes, and then the woman says that she is his wife. A little while later, Ellen lets Jessica in, stating that she never knew Jessie had a cousin that looked just like him. But as she goes to get them some creamer for their coffee, Jessica locks Ellen in the pantry. Now, with Ellen out of the way, it's time for Jessica to take a look around. Jessica begins to look through Jessie's study until suddenly she's knocked in the head with a can, and Ellen tells her, "How dare you?" Jessica tosses Ellen to the side, telling her to take it easy. Does she really want to see what her husband's up to? And then she touches a globe on Jessie's desk, and a recording states that the DNA scan is confirmed. The room begins to open up hidden compartments showing guns hanging up, and Jessica says, "See, he isn't what he seems." Ellen then grabs one of the guns from the racks and points it, stating she may not have known what her husband does, but she does know what he provides, and that's all that matters to her and her kids. Before the argument can continue though, she hears Ellen's kids coming home from school asking if they can get a snack. Jessica and Ellen return to the living room and they try to act civil to not alarm the children, but as they leave, Jessica says that she's not here to mess with her family, but her husband is the reason why she's not home with her kid right now. He stole something from Jessica, and that's why she's stuck here. 30 minutes later, in front of Gwen Stacy's home, Jessica returns to find Gwen and Cindy already back from Cindy's little side trip, and Jessica says that there's no sign of the teleporter at Jessie Drew's home. However, before the conversation can really continue, a head peeks out from the door stating that it's ready. Once inside, Reed says that it works exactly like they wanted. It was sort of terrifyingly easy to build. Gwen mentions that this whole thing seems to be sketchy, but Jessica tells her that Reed is brilliant and an anal retentive person. He wouldn't send them if it wasn't safe. She begins to walk through the portal, assuming that she's gonna go home, and then she begins to scream out in pain, and then she pokes her head back to them, telling them, "Just kidding, everything's good." The three of them cross over into the portal, and then Jessica hails down a cab and tells Cindy to take Gwen and find out what the evil Cindy has been doing. They're all gonna talk about it tomorrow. For now, she just wants to go home and see her baby. Cindy takes Gwen over to her office at the Fact and News to learn that the evil her is stealing weapons from all of the superheroes in town. Cindy decides that she's gonna find a way to break the encryption on the USB drive that she stole from her other version's office and tell everyone what's going on, but when she gets to her computer, there's a message on her screen. Parker Industries, the Baxter Building, tonight. Love, Cindy 65. Cindy says that it wasn't on the drive. She beat him here. The two of them head over to Parker Industries and they sneak in, and Cindy says, "Don't worry, the remotes are turned off." And once they get inside, they're suddenly attacked by 4 giant robotic arms. The two of them begin to jump around, having the arms follow, and then they tie themselves into a knot. Gwen says, "4 down, now the other 4, and then Cindy tells Gwen to look out as the arm reaches out to blast them. The two of them begin to get back up, but Cindy looks at the figure through the smoke and realizes that it's her, well, the other her, Cindy 65. Cindy 65 gets a message back home informing her that her work is complete, and then Cindy jumps into attack. Just as Cindy is about to connect, a shield appears around 65, and she covers her whole body with it, and then she blasts them just like Iron Man. Gwen tells her not to attack. She could have easily killed them before. She's just trying to show off what she could have been. So Cindy asks her, "Why all of this? Why bring Gwen into this?" And 65 floats down, telling her, "Because the Gwen Stacy of Earth 65, I'm basically her fairy godmother." Gwen asks her, "What?" And 65 says, "Maybe this is the time for one of those cliche supervillain speeches. A long time ago, Gwen saved 65's life like anyone else, until a spider came along one day in school, except it didn't bite her. It was killed. Ever since then, she's wondered, what if the spider bit her? Well, while working with S.I.L.K, another freak spider-related tragedy struck. But thanks to her research, Agent Drew managed to live, and he owed her. Just like Gwen owes her. So she decided to take the research that she came across and release it into the world in the form of a spider. Since then, she's been watching Gwen like a lab rat. And now with all of this world technology, she can ensure that no Cindy Moon ever has to hide in a bunker again. Gwen smacks her arm, telling her, "Yeah, make a new world for her to sit on, right?" And 65 tells her she's offering them both a chance to have everything they've ever wanted, a chance to be all of the things that they should be. Cindy and Gwen tell her no way, and they begin to charge in, and 65 tells them, "Fine, have it your way," and then she blasts them away with her glove. Gwen starts to get back up, and she says there's something wrong. "Wait, Where's Cindy? 65 grabs her and points down, telling them that the first thing that they stole was a Pym particle. You've heard of it, right? The thing that makes the ant-men and wasps the size of actual ants and wasps. It also makes women spider-sized. Small spiders begin to crawl out of 65's glove, and they begin to cover Cindy and Gwen, attacking them. 65 then says that since she made Gwen a superhero, she thought it would be fun to be the supervillain. And just as she gave, she can take away from Gwen. Gwen begins to black out as 65 leaves, and after a while, Cindy begins to grow back to normal. When she goes to check on Gwen, she hears someone calling out to her, telling her to stand down, and she turns back to see Mockingbird telling her to stand down. The two girls are cuffed and taken away, and Cindy tries to say that it wasn't her who took all of those things, but Mockingbird tells her that she should have known better. She wasn't ready for this. The van begins to take them both away, and Gwen and Cindy stare at each other, with Cindy asking, "What?" Gwen tells her she told her to call Jessica. They wouldn't be in this mess if they had just called Jessica. And she knows that she's been thinking about 65's offer as well. The two of them begin to bicker about it, and then Cindy's spider sense goes off as she asks Gwen if she can hear it. Outside of the truck, a missile flies through the air, hitting the truck, flipping it on its side. Gunfire starts to go off, and bullets begin to pierce the inside of the van, and they begin to see a hole being cut on the side of the van. As the side of the van falls out, they hear a voice telling them that their field trip has been canceled. There's still some recess, so let's play. And through the hole stands Black Cat holding a blowtorch. Gwen and Cindy escape and help Black Cat fight off the remaining guards. Gwen, now lacking her powers because 65 took them away, says, "Who needs her powers? She's fast!" And then she gets hit in the back with a stun rod by a guard. Cindy helps her back up and they continue on fighting, but as the last guard is knocked out, Black Cat says that it looks like her friend is leaving her behind, and Cindy tells her she's not her friend. Later that night, Black Cat takes Cindy to her roof and asks her, "What have you gotten yourself into?" Before she was holding back, but this new her, she likes it. Cindy tells her that she wasn't the one holding back. Now she needs help breaking into the Avengers vault. So Black Cat asks her, "What are we waiting for? Let's go get what's ours." During all of this, Jessica returned home so she can finally see her son. And that's when she sees Roger and Jesse Drew. And Jesse is holding her son, stating, "What's up, sis?" Jesse tells her that he kept her son up way past his bedtime, so it's time for him to get some sleep. As Jesse goes to lay Jessica's son down, Roger mentions Jessica and Jesse Drew. That's wild. How could she never mention that she has a twin brother? And Jessica says she doesn't. But as Roger says try to explain it, Jessica sees Jesse hold out a gun behind Roger. Jessica plays along until Roger says he'll let them talk. He's sure they've got a lot of things to go over and he leaves. Jesse then says he had this whole stay out of his life or he'll burn hers to the ground thing planned. But after seeing this place, that threat would seem kind of hollow. Jessica runs up and punches Jesse and then begins to hit him again and again until he grabs her arm, tossing her off and blasting her. Jessica quickly jumps back up and grabs a hold of Jesse and slams him into the wall. But before she can jump on him and hit him, the two begin to hear the baby crying. She asks if he minds and he tells her, "Nah, go ahead." A little while later, after the baby goes back to sleep, Jesse says that he works very hard to keep his family safe. So how about they just stay in their own universes and not cross over? Jessica asks if she's supposed to forget about him working for an evil billionaire who stole Gwen's teleporter for God knows what. He then tells her, corporate espionage. Cindy came here to get the tech back home, reverse engineer it, and then sell it. Before long, Gwen knocks on the door, stating that she's sorry for barging in, and then she sees Jesse and jumps into attack. Jesse drops the teleporter and Gwen asks if she's punched him yet, which Jesse tells her, yes, they're past that part. Gwen says, good, then it's her turn, and she cracks him again. But it wasn't Jesse's face that made that sound, it was Gwen's hand. Jessica asks, how did she break her hand hitting Jesse? And she tells him that his boss ambushed her and Cindy and stole her powers. And now she's all super powered or super science powered or something. Anyway, they plan to take it to their world and rule it. Jessica asks Jesse, corporate espionage? And Jesse shrugs, stating, that's what it's called. Jessica then asks how can he be okay with all of that, and Gwen says it's because she has him under her thumb. She saved his life from some alien spider bite years ago, and she's been giving him medicine to stay alive ever since then, except she cured him 10 years ago. Gwen says she broke into that USB drive and it has files on Jesse Drew. The only thing that she's been giving him is for him to keep his powers. In fact, he can stop and just return to being normal at any time. Jesse then looks at the device on him and asks, this would make him normal again? No, he can't risk it. What about his family? But Jessica stops him, stating, she's not lying. We're superheroes, remember? Jesse finally agrees to help out, and then he tosses the device to Gwen, and Jessica snatches the item, telling her, before this, Gwen had a life. So before giving her back her powers, tell her that she wouldn't be better off without it, and she'll give it back to her. Gwen snatches the item, putting it on her arm, telling Jessica that that is her decision, not Jess's. Back over in Earth 65 at Jesse's home, 65 leaves the house stating that he's not here. He's dead to them after all she's done. She then turns and her glove switches to Hulkbuster mode and fires a blast, blowing up Jesse's entire house. After a helicopter comes back and picks her up, the neighbor across the street who was watching clicks his garage remote and begins to lift the garage. A van rolls out and Jesse calls to Jessica, telling her that his boss is definitely angry. She's going to throw a tantrum in private, so she should be on her way. Back over in 65's lab, 65 begins throwing fireballs, destroying things, cursing out Jesse. But as she goes to get something to eat, she hears Jessica's voice telling her that she must be sad that no one cared enough to build a bunker and put her away. So she just went ahead and built her own. 65 throws another fireball and Jessica runs in and knees her in the face. 65 gets back up and from her back out pops Doc Ock's mechanical arms. Off in the distance, Gwen is watching, waiting for her powers to come back. And Jessie says that she would know because she would feel really good once she got her powers back. But maybe it kicked in and she didn't notice. Gwen tries to lift up a motorcycle but realizes, nope, she has no powers. And then Jessica comes crashing through the wall by one of 65's arms. Gwen asks if she's okay and Jessica tells her to help as soon as her powers kick in before being dragged back out. Jessica begins fighting back, but 65 keeps changing through other heroes' abilities until finally she gets to Peter Butrisky. Jessica falls back into the white goop and shouts, "Paste Pot Pete? Seriously?" Then she tells her, "Whatever works." And then the glove switches over to Victor Von Doom. Jessica's body is then shot across the lab, bouncing around until she is slammed into a wall, stopping her. And just before 65 can finish her off, she hears Gwen telling her that she better back up, Moon Pie, because Urban Assault Spider-Gwen is about to battle damage her sorry butt. Gwen begins firing all of the guns at her, and as the smoke begins to clear, 65 stands there with a barrier from Captain America's shield. And then she says that it's time for Rhino mode as she starts charging in at Gwen. But then she stops when she hears the computer stating, "Welcome, Miss Moon." Everyone looks back and sees Cindy with a suit of armor asking if she remembers that Adaptoid that she sent after them. Well, she had little Reed Richards look into it and make some cool shape-shifting armor. Cindy jumps back in, catching 65 and slamming her back down to the ground, hitting her with Thor's hammer. Cindy then gets back up, ready to blast into her, but 65 tells her, "United they stand. Nothing stands against Silk's Adaptoid and spiders except EMP mode. Reed Richards." A giant blue blast goes off and Gwen looks at her gun stating, "Crap!" And Cindy just falls over. Without Cindy to help, 65 says, "Guess they'll just have to fight hand to hand with no powers." And Gwen jumps in to punch, but her throw is rather weak. 65 tells her without her power, she can't even throw a real punch. And then she begins beating down Gwen. Punch after punch, Gwen is knocked down, but as 65 looks down on her, Gwen laughs stating, "Dude, Jess said it would feel good when things kicked back in." She then kicks 65 up, hitting her into a wall, knocking her out. After freeing Cindy and Jessica waking back up, Jessica stomps on 65's glove and asks everyone if they want some aspirin and ice cream. 3 weeks later, in Earth 65, the three girls go back for brunch again. And while eating, Jessica asks Cindy if she's going to go see her parents again. Cindy tells her no, just popping in wouldn't be fair to them. And then Gwen asks, "Speaking of, whatever happened to evil Cindy?" So she says, "Funny you ask. We sent her a care package." Over in the Earth 65 Shield Correctional Facility, 65 opens up a box with some things like a VCR, soda, and reads a letter stating that she knows that she'll be locked up for a while. So, from one bunker to another. 65 kicks the box over and Jessica tells everyone, $20 says that that's gonna come back and bite us in the butt. And that concludes this massive epic Spider-Woman storyline. It is crazy long. I love each one of the women featured in this storyline. They all have separate books, so if you want us to do each one of these individually, let me know in the comments down below who you like more. Spider-Woman, Cindy, who's known as Silk, or Gwen Stacy, who's known as Spider-Gwen on the comic book cover, but she's actually called Spider-Woman in her world. It's kind of confusing. Anyway, and give this video a like telling us you want more of these women. That's all I got for you guys. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Comicstorian, Instagram at Comicstorian, and I'll see you next time right here.